Welcome back to the Manchester United. So the United Pubcast. Manchester United have won 3-0 against Charlton in the League Cup. League Cup quarter-final. Erik ten Hag qualifies for his first available semi-final of the season, which I'm sure will definitely get one of Newcastle United or Manchester City. Definitely shapes up to be an exciting semi-final. But I was going to run solo on tonight's podcast, but George has come off the bench a la Facundo Pellistri. For a nice sort of lively appearance to liven things up. So, George, thank you very much. And obviously on the other side of the world at the moment, it was an early start for us here in Sydney watching the match. But it's much easier being a Manchester United fan at the moment, isn't it? The good form worries me. It's not natural to be winning 8 games on the bounce. And it's a throwback to 20 years ago when times were a lot better. But talk to me how you feel on this fine day.
Good evening to everyone in Sydney. Good morning, all our European listeners like myself at the moment. Before I start, a massive congratulations to Man Cave United's Emad on the birth of his son, and to him and his wife. But with regards to United and 8 in a row, yes, it is fantastic. Yes, I don't remember this since the 12-13 season. Ultimately, we may have a big reality check coming up on Saturday, which hopefully is a reality check for them more so than us.
Well, in that 12-13 season, we had a Dutch striker. We could have a Dutch striker, maybe not by the weekend, but we'll touch on all things Weghorst, because anyone who's been listening to the podcast for a while does know George and Weghorst do have a history, and it's a positive history. It's probably the only person in the world who has called Weghorst to Manchester United months and months in advance. So we'll touch on all things about Weghorst at the end. But this will be a review of Manchester United, Charlton, and the League Cup. So do get all your thoughts in on the match. 3, 2, 1s. You know the drill. Just say good day to some people in the live chat. Jamie over from Northern Ireland, good to see you, mate. Ashby, as always. Matt, good to see you. Let us know if you're going to be there on Saturday night, Matt, for the Manchester Derby. And Elliot, always good to see you, mate. Hope all is well. Now, I think these match reviews, George, we always start in 11. Interesting one, because I'll get into Kobe Mainoo in a little set, because about 12 hours before kickoff, just before I went to bed, just had a hunch that Mainoo would play. I thought I was being called an Iqbal. I wanted to see Iqbal play. I just had a hunch Mainoo's going to play. I wake up an hour before kickoff. He's in the starting lineup, so I was a happy man. We'll get into his performance in a little bit. But we'll start at the back. We've just signed a goalkeeper, Jack Butland. This is probably the only time he could play a game in terms of League One side. And not to disrespect him, but obviously David De Gea is going to play all the important games. So League One opposition at home. Okay, this is where Jack Butland, your new goalkeeper signing, could play. Tom Heaton goes in goals. Now, Tom Heaton did very well, I thought, did his job well, looked far better than Dubravka did the other week.
Was Jack Butland in the squad?
Very good question. I'm positive he was on the bench. Do let me know. Let me know in the chat.
I don't remember him being in the squad.
He might not have been. Okay, that proves me wrong. But in regards to that, Tom Heaton, we'll start at the back.
No, he wasn't in the squad.
So was De Gea on the bench, was he?
Yeah.
Okay, no, fair play. Okay, sorry, Jack. Sorry about that. But Tom Heaton came in, and I thought actually, look, he doesn't start the Manchester Derby. David De Gea keeps the spot between the sticks. But Tom Heaton, compared to what Dubravka did, I thought assured himself quite well.
I agree. Like Tom Heaton, we forget that he's an England international goalkeeper. Actually made his England debut on the same match as Marcus Rashford. And speaking of goalkeepers, coincidentally enough, those two made their international debuts against Australia. And in the other end, I know we don't want to talk so much about Charlton, but it was nice to see Ashley Maynard-Brewer as an Australian have a good game.
I wouldn't know he's Australian. No, fair play. Thank you for the trivia.
He was the Belarus keeper at the Olympics.
Oh, was that him? Was that? Okay, yeah, no, fair play to him. Obviously, Erik ten Hag spoke nicely of him. Thanks for that little bit of information, George. But the other George, in the live chat, good to see you, mate. Borche from the football capital, always good to have you, mate. And Elliot here. We'll move a little bit forward. Maguire moving like Phil Jones. Maguire didn't have the greatest of games, but what I would say, George, Lisandro Martinez is more shaky than Maguire for me.
I guess you alluded to it earlier. Like Martinez has probably been on the piss in Argentina for 2 weeks, and rightfully so. It's a once-in-a-lifetime thing winning the World Cup. But I remember you, Larry, bringing this up about a few months ago when we were going through that really bad patch of form. We were talking about Maguire specifically. I remember specifically he said Maguire makes every defender around him worse because they've almost got to do the job of 1.5 defenders. And unfortunately, I don't want to be too harsh on him, but that's what we saw today.
Well, you look at the first 2 games of the season, from memory, it was a partnership of Maguire and Martinez.
It was.
And maybe just a thing of those where maybe just, I don't know, I'm sure they get on off the pitch, or maybe they don't. Maybe there is just maybe the lack of communication and understanding of each other's games. And look, we are right with in saying that in regards to everything Maguire touches at the moment sort of negatively affects everything around him. But it could just be a partnership thing, because I saw Martinez and he looks fit, but he just looked a little bit shaky. I don't want to say Maguire had a good game, but I thought if I was rating them, I thought Maguire had it was a little bit like sort of just a little bit not as error prone as Martinez. I thought Martinez, compared to his high standards, was just a little bit shaky.
Or your 3-2-1s at the start of the season. You gave Maguire one of the.
I think in the first game.
The first game you gave him a point, but ultimately he's the defender that makes way for Martinez.
Yeah. Look, Martinez keeps his spot for the Manchester derby. Now, maybe there is a shout to move Luke Shaw inside and keep Malacia. I don't agree with that. But Martinez and Varane definitely start the Manchester derby. That's not a sort of criticism of Lisandro Martinez. He set the bar so high for himself this season. Maybe a 6 out of 10 looks a bit poorer than what it is. So definitely not a criticism, but just a little bit of an observation. Now, the only negative, because I'm sure we'll get into plenty of positives, George, the only negative I can think of, Diogo Dalot. Didn't seem too bad, but obviously a little bit of a precautionary substitution, sort of signalled to Erik ten Hag that it's just something minor. But ultimately, he was injured and did have to leave the pitch. Manchester derby, which I'm sure we'll do many previews in the coming days. Aaron Wan-Bissaka or Diogo Dalot. What are your current thoughts?
On match fitness and match sharpness, you have to go Wan-Bissaka, don't you?
Look, I won't lose any sleep over that, and especially Wan-Bissaka has a very good record against Manchester City. Now, I'm sure someone could put the stats that say we've conceded so many goals with Wan-Bissaka. Okay, fair enough, but in terms of just my memory of Wan-Bissaka, I can just envisage good slide tackles against Raheem Sterling, etc. So I'm not going to lose any sleep over Wan-Bissaka starting, but ultimately I think, especially the way Erik ten Hag wants to play, I don't think we'll be parking the bus. I think ultimately Manchester City should dominate, but I think Erik ten Hag will go with the intention of dominating himself. So the intention from Erik ten Hag will be Diogo Dalot, but it definitely could be Aaron Wan-Bissaka. So it'll be very interesting. Fingers crossed it's only a slight injury, but time will tell. Malacia, I thought Malacia just solid enough. Luke Shaw comes back in a left back. I thought maybe shaky at times, but a little bit better than his previous performance. So anything else on the back four before we do move on?
Not too much to comment on the back four with regards to Dalot. You could argue it was the perfect game to bring him in, but then on the flip side, if he's going to be your first choice for the Manchester derby, why is he playing this match?
Yeah, look, I agree, but I called Diogo Dalot to start in this one just to get an hour under his belt. Unfortunately, he got 20 minutes or so, but just to get a little bit more match rhythm, same as Lisandro Martinez. But fingers crossed, all come up fit, have a good rest today, and are ready for Saturday night Sydney time. Now, moving forward into midfield, this is what I want from McFred. Now, McTominay came in for a lot of criticisms. I don't think he had a good game, but I don't think he was as bad as a lot of people sort of made out in regards to he was on the winning. He played 90 minutes in a midfield that won 3-0. There were far worse players on the Charlton team than Scott McTominay, but I thought Fred outshone him a little bit in terms of providing a little bit more energy. Obviously, Fred played much sort of in his more preferred role. Scott McTominay had to drop a little bit deeper, which obviously isn't his game. But in regards to what I want from McFred, that's it. Come in, do a job, win the game 3-0, give Casemiro and Eriksen an hour's rest, and you move on. I don't expect Fred, or maybe there's a shout for Fred to play against Manchester City, but ultimately come in, give Casemiro and Eriksen an hour off. Bruno Fernandes would have been given the night off if he wasn't suspended. You don't keep your spot for Manchester City, but you've progressed us in the cup. Well done. That's part of being a squad, in my opinion. So I didn't understand the hate towards, well, I do understand it because I see it every week, but I didn't understand the hate towards McFred and, well, McTominay and Fred himself.
Well, I agree with everything you've said. I remember previously you've said that, with all due respect to Charlton, we're good enough to win games with McTominay and Fred in midfield against, let's say, 60% of the opposition we're going to play against. And ultimately, this is one of these games, and you're right, this is what we utilise the squad for. With regards to their individual performances, 6 out of 10. Like, what more do you want? Yeah. We don't need 10 out of 10 performances to beat Charlton.
I think that was the thing. I was having a few debates and look at who am I to get into an argument about Scott McTominay's performances, but I was having a discussion with a few people. And I said, well, what do you want? Do you want him to go past 3 players, score a hat-trick and get 2 assists? What does that achieve? Win 4-0? Win 3-0? Like, he comes in, does a job. Okay, maybe not the greatest of jobs, but it was just one of those ones, okay?
I want to point out Elliot's comment because where I think we might have gone a bit wrong in our last match against City, yes, albeit Casemiro didn't play, was that I did think we went a bit too attacking heavy with regards to going Bruno, Eriksen, and I think it was McTominay that played that match. I
think there is a shout, which I'm sure we'll do many previews in the coming days or many looks ahead towards.
If there is a game for City, it's the derby. Oh, sorry.
Yeah.
City.
I think not so much just Fred himself. I just think in regards to maybe limitations Eriksen has. I think, look, Eriksen has been brilliant since he's come in. Absolutely love him. No criticism at all. Defensively, maybe he leaves a little bit, just in regards to energy and physicality. And not so much winning headers of tackles, but just that up and down. up and down. You look at McTominay today and that the Pellistri assist, that was the 90th minute. He's still getting box-to-box. Does Eriksen really have that? It's not a criticism of Eriksen, but I just think, does he have that box-to-box nature that a player like Fred or McTominay has? Probably not. So from a defensive aspect, I could see a case for Erik ten Hag opting for Fred on Saturday. I think it'll be Eriksen, but it will be very interesting. Get everyone's thoughts in the live chat. Stephen, good to see you, mate. Hope all is well. And Borja here, I think we need Fred, Bruno, and Casemiro this week. And look, I definitely wouldn't lose any sleep over it. And Eriksen, look, it's still a very busy We're going to need Eriksen against Crystal Palace to break them down. So if we're going to rest Christian Eriksen for a game, maybe this is one of those. That'll be what Erik ten Hag is paid big bucks for. Now, George, Kobbie Mainoo. He was born in 2005. That doesn't please me. That worries me. That makes me feel very old. He's born in 2005, 17-year-old, comes on, makes a debut. I thought, look, it's just one of those ones. He won't make another appearance now for a while, I don't think. He didn't do enough. But ultimately, a 17-year-old to come in and just do fine, do a 6 out of 10. I think what a moment for him. I was so pleased because I placed that, not personally placed, I didn't call up Eric, but I said the one demand I'm placing on Erik ten Hag is give a debut in this game. And I expected maybe the last 10, 15 minutes for someone, but to throw a 17-year-old from the start, I was over the moon with Erik ten Hag and Kobbie Mainoo.
100%. 100%. What a great moment for him. A 17-year-old playing at Old Trafford in a knockout game.
Sometimes you see like a 19-year-old, 20-year-old, 17. Like
17, wow. And also, we're going to talk. I guess we'll talk about the other club debut that happened in the 83rd minute, which I think was far too overdue. But as for Mainoo himself, he did have a couple of chances, but you can't blame a 17-year-old for just being a bit jittery. Think about every single one in this live chat when they were 17 years old. They would have absolutely shat themselves.
Well, yeah, no, look, I don't think, and look, obviously, Manchester United fan base online sort of pick and choose at the moment who they're going to defend and support, but unanimously and rightly so, everyone was behind Mainoo. I don't think there was any over-the-top criticism of his performance. Not that it deserved it, but I think he's full of support, which is good to see. Stephen here, every professional player is younger than me. Age has suddenly become irrelevant. Yeah, it could be in that category very soon in terms of, he could be maybe 17 years old. Fair play to him. But I am getting to that age as well, Stephen, where I'll be one of the experienced heads in the Man United team. But before we get into Pellistri, because I think his discussion comes in at 3-2-1s, we'll move into the front three. Anthony Langer. Actually, Anthony Langer, he'll come into the Pellistri discussion. But Anthony on the right-hand side.
Watch this comment now.
Where's Borche here? I'll just say Borche here. Alanga needs to go. I'm sorry, not just good enough. We'll definitely touch on Alanga. I want to do a short video tomorrow as well on Pellistri and Alanga, but Alanga will definitely come up in the Pellistri discussion, I'm sure. But we'll start on Anthony. He's got some left foot.
Oh, he might only have one foot, but it's a brilliant foot, isn't it?
It's all you need. Maradona and Messi only have a left foot as well. David Beckham, no one told him to just cut on the inside so he can go. Everyone knew what he was going to do. I think what actually helped Anthony with this goal, the defender, I was watching the defender when the ball came across to him, and he shows him so much on his left foot. The defender is actually hesitant, thinking he's shown me so much, he's actually going to cut back on his right. He's going to fake the pass or fake the shot and cut back onto his right. So that threat, well, it feels like a lack of threat because he's shown the left, feels like a lack of threat, but the defender actually saw it as a threat to go to the right. And that actually opens the space up a little bit more for the shot. So, yes, look, he is very one-dimensional, but he will learn from that. And he can also, Arjen Robben was one-dimensional. Players like that are one-dimensional. It can be used with your experience and sort of learning throughout the game. You can use it to your advantage, and I think he will do that. Erik ten Hag, if he was so bad and such a flop and so one-dimensional and so pointless, Erik ten Hag who's worked with him before, wouldn't have paid that money and wouldn't keep selecting him. Erik ten Hag sees something, and I'm glad for it because Anthony definitely deserves it.
100%. And if you bring up the comparison with Arjen Robben, what Arjen Robben did do, however, especially I'll say towards the back end of his time at Real Madrid and at Bayern Munich, was that he also developed the option of getting to the byline and crossing with his right foot, which doesn't seem impressive. Doesn't have to be though. All it gives is that puts that doubt in your fullback's mind that you could do either of two things. For me, I think Anthony is a bit too predictable now, whereas you almost know 99% of the time he is going to cut back on his left. All he needs, just get to the ball and cross it with your right foot. It doesn't even need to be a spectacular cross. Just put that doubt in your fullback's mind.
Put down for a goal kick.
Take you down to a far greater level.
Yeah, no, but and look, I agree completely, and I agree with all the frustrations towards Anthony. But well, okay, he's not as young as Kobbie Mainoo, but he's a young player. He will learn. Like you look at Ronaldo when he came in, how frustrating, how some of the stuff he was doing. It's part of the game. Erik ten Hag has shown what a good coach he is at the moment in terms of how he's improved Manchester United players. I'm sure with someone he has a great connection with Anthony, he'll definitely improve. So, and I think a huge thing in regards to that, not to criticise Wan-Bissaka or Delo, but they develop a relationship that will provide the threat on the right-hand side as well. It's not just Anthony having to go himself. Now, we'll go to Marcus Rashford. Why not? It was close to a 1-0 game and just sort of scraping through in the cup, but ultimately we'll walk away with a 3-0 victory thanks to 2 late goals from Marcus Rashford. Now, you and I have both been very critical of Marcus Rashford in recent years, and look, I think rightly so. And it comes from a place we both absolutely love him, but also think we've been sort of not too sort of fond of some of his performances and sort of off-field stuff over recent years. But ultimately now he's given us exactly what we want on and off the pitch. And you look at informed players, Marcus Rashford at the moment, we had just had a discussion, Larry and I, the other day in regards to salary caps and 200,000. And could you imagine Marcus Rashford going into the contract negotiating room now and saying, yeah, I'm happy to settle on 200. Like, the guy could demand 400,000 in the form that he's in. He's in better form than Erling Haaland, for God's sake. And I'm just thinking, what do you make of this Marcus Rashford form at the moment? Is it a nice purple patch? Has Erik ten Hag uncovered something where he's given something different? Is Marcus Rashford sort of actually improving on his game? Like, just what do you make of this unbelievable form he's in?
I think it's a combination of Ten Hag really getting stuck into him, Rashford actually being able to properly recover from his injury, and Rashford, to his credit, improving. What my criticism, or I wouldn't say it's a criticism. The reason why I say Rashford's not a world-class player is because only a select group of players have that natural footballing ability that allows them to become world-class. However, when you talk about United legends, we can name United legends that weren't necessarily world-class. That's not to say I don't think Rashford can become a United legend if he stays. And like we've said on the show, we'd love nothing more than for that to happen. I think the main improvement in his game this year, firstly, is his work off the ball. He's doing really well to get back. Ten Hag's really drilled that into him. And secondly, and I think most importantly, is his decision-making on the ball. It's not just mindlessly try and beat a player and get a shot away when the shot's not even on. Whether even if it's just a simple pass back or to your Casemiro or the pass to Shaw or Malacia overlapping, it's the correct decision every time. When he's taken the shot, correct decision. When he's been in the 2-on-2, manages to eliminate a player and play either Martial or Anthony, it's been the correct decision. And that therefore has meant he's less wasteful with the ball. When he gets a shot away, it's more than likely going to be on target in the form that he's in at the moment, a goal. And when he's beating a player, he's eliminated the play and created the 3-on-2. I
think one of my huge sort of praises of Marcus Rashford this season, and while there has been a huge influx or huge sort of increase in sort of goals, and it looks like this huge sort of increase in form just in regards to his output, is the sort of slow in regards to performances. So take away the goals and I look at work rate and I look at passes, look at decision making. It's been a gradual improvement. Every week he seems to get a little bit more mature, and I'll put that down to him. But also Erik ten Hag. I think Erik ten Hag is working wonders, and that I would almost prefer that. Like, I could live with even if he had scored 1 goal this year. In regards to the improvement in his performances, I think I'm seeing something there. Now, the goals are a bonus, obviously. Of course they are, but I'm very happy with Marcus Rashford. I'm sure he'll be up for awards, and rightly so, for every sort of award under the sun in January. But anything else on Rashford before we do move on to...
I remember you saying in Dutch football, the reason why Rashford might struggle under Ten Hag is because... I
thought one of the players who was going to struggle under Erik ten Hag was Marcus Rashford.
And I agree with you 100%. And obviously Ten Hag's had that word with him. If you want to be in my plans, these are the improvements that you need to make to your game. And to Rashford's credit, he's done that, because stuff like decision making and work rate, that's not an ability thing. That's between the years. And fair play to Rashford, he's developed that. Does he have, like, I don't want to bring Martial into the discussion, does he have the all-round footballing ability that Martial does? No, I don't think he does, and ultimately that's why, in my opinion, as good as he is, he'll never be world-class. That should be a tier reserved for literally a handful of players. But that does not mean, let me make it clear, that does not mean he can't become a United legend.
I completely agree, and I think he's well on his way to be a Man United legend. If he can add another trophy or two, I think he's well on his way. Do let us know your thoughts on that as well. But Chris here, in regards to Rashford, I got him in my fantasy team, had him last week as well.
You have to, he's a midfielder.
Yeah, but I can't captain Erling Haaland this week. Every Manchester United fan should be getting Haaland out of their team. Or if you're bad at fantasy, get him in so he doesn't score if you work like that. That's often how I work. Matt here saying Ten Hag gave Rashford a good rap after the game. Yeah, definitely, obviously speaking highly of him. Off the back as well of sort of punishing him for being late. I think the management of Marcus Rashford as well from Erik ten Hag has been brilliant. I want to get him more into Erik ten Hag. I think it's underrated what a job this guy's doing. Like, in terms of everything, off the field, Maguire, Ronaldo, changing the dugouts, everything. I need to go into some of the stuff Erik ten Hag has done and what he's improved at this club.
In Ten Hag's first 29 games in charge of United, he's won 72% of his matches.
Yeah.
It's better than what Pep and Klopp did. And Pep with all the resources of the world. Klopp, you can understand why, because he didn't have a pre-season and he took over a shit team in the middle of the season. But the fact that he's done better than Pep. Well,
yeah, and look, if you are happy with what Erik ten Hag is doing, please do leave a like on the video. It'd be very much appreciated. Now, before we get into the 3-2-1s, someone who you and I have had many discussions over the last year, or even Erik ten Hag's time at Manchester United, is Facundo Pellistri, a player we both sort of maybe don't rate as this. He's going to be the world superstar, but we think there's a player there, especially under Erik ten Hag, and just why isn't he getting game time? Now, is that down to injury? Is it down to training? Is it down to just selection? It was always interesting. He's starting for Uruguay, and we think, well, he's playing for Uruguay, and he hasn't. I was sure he'd made his debut somewhere, but he actually hadn't made his debut for Manchester United. I think, Christ, that's a long time. He signed with Ahmad all those years ago under Ole Gunnar Solskjaer. So for him to wait this long for a debut, one was shocking. Not shocking in regards to a disgrace or anything. I was just shocked. I thought surely he had made a debut, but he hasn't. So congratulations to Pellistri for making his debut. But ultimately comes on and you think, well, he should have made it a year ago. Like, he looks very good, especially in regards to the way Erik ten Hag wants to play. So I'll throw the floor to you in regards to, do you want to talk about his debut and performance, or do you have maybe a theory as to why he hasn't been getting those chances?
Well, I said jokingly off air to you there is a reason why I thought it might have been, but let's hope it's not the Wilfried Zaha sort of scenario. But with regards to his actual debut, on a serious note, are we really surprised? It's a guy that, okay, Uruguay what they were in 2010, but to be starting for a South American football side that makes the World Cup, you've got to have something about you.
Yeah.
Are we really surprised that he's come on against, with all due respect, Charlton and beat 3 players?
We do have to take that into consideration. It was Charlton, but ultimately other players are on the pitch for 89 minutes and didn't quite get it done.
Yeah, I take that point, but it's like we're surprised that he's good. I don't even know why we're surprised, because you're getting picked in the Uruguay squad if it was shit.
No, definitely, I agree with that. Just before, I want to stay on the Pellistri train, but Borche here with a good point, which I want to look a little bit further into and sort of maybe talk to one or two people who have maybe a bit of a better insight into what is happening. Benny McCarthy has been a big part of Rashford's form. I do want to learn a little bit more about what Benny McCarthy is doing and the sort of work he's doing with the strikers, because the evidence suggests he's working wonders. But so bang on the money there from Borche. But in regards to Pellistri there, in regards to what is the answer? Now, we can tie Alanga into this discussion. Now, when we mention Alanga here, this is not, Alanga's rubbish, get him out of the club. It's just, okay, Pellistri might be a little bit better, and that's not to criticise Anthony Alanga. But in regards to that now, a lot of people say, okay, put Pellistri above Alanga. Okay, that's good. Is Pellistri really going to get the minutes then if Anthony Alanga's not getting the minutes as such? So I'm just thinking, what's the answer with Pellistri now? Because maybe you can start him against Reading. Now, that's still a big call. I wouldn't lose any sleep if Erik ten Hag starts him against Reading. But ultimately, okay, there's one start. Is he ever going to get any other appearances this season? He could get off the bench here or there, 5 minutes there, 10 minutes there. But I'm thinking, ultimately, we want to see more of Facundo Pellistri, but will he really get his chance this season? So, yes, he might move above Alanga in the pecking order, but is that enough? Because Anthony Alanga's not getting enough minutes. So I'm just thinking, what do you want to see for Pellistri at the end of the season? Do you stay and take Alanga's spot and maybe get 5 or 10 minutes off the bench, or do you look to get a loan somewhere?
I think from his perspective, I think he's got a Copa America coming up next year, so maybe to secure his place in the Uruguay team, he might want to play a bit more football. So in that case alone, but I actually see him having a future in the centre of midfield as well, which is where he has played for Alaves and for Uruguay at times as well. So whether he could be the guy from next season onwards, let's say we let Fred walk, then could he take Fred's spot?
Well, he's also got maybe not so much Alanga, but there's also potentially Donny van der Beek in maybe a more advanced role if Bruno's out and Donny van der Beek's not available, maybe in that role, because he definitely is that. Yeah, I know he lines up wide sometimes, but he is that technical player you'd sort of envisage in the number 10 role, a little bit more sort of central than in a wide area, because he does have that technique. But Stephen here, Pellistri can get bench time if we don't sign him a striker this one. Look, I'm sure his chances will increase and he will get more minutes, but ultimately enough to what really develop. What I would do, George, now I don't know the situation at Southampton. What I would do, I would say, go to Southampton, look, you're having a horrible season. You got nothing to play for. What you have in wide areas or the number 10, it's not working for you. Take this guy, we'll pay his wages, pay no loan fee, start him every game. You got nothing to lose, might as well play him. And I reckon see a couple of months of him playing Premier League football down at Southampton. That's personally what I would do. Now, does that suit Pellistri? Is that what he wants? Is that what Erik ten Hag wants? Maybe not. But just in my line of thinking, in terms of guaranteeing him minutes, I want to see him in the Premier League. Now, yes, some players can go to Serie A or La Liga. You don't know how that translates. Now, yes, we can sign players from then, those countries, obviously. But I want to see a loan play in the Premier League and what they do in England. So I'd love to see Pellistri get a loan, but I also do want to see him in the red shirt because he did look very impressive. So Do let us know your thoughts on Facundo Pellistri in the comments below. And in the live chat, time for 3, 2, 1. So do get your 3, 2, 1 votes in. Interesting one here, George. I'll throw it to you first. 3 names spring to mind for me. Now, one person we haven't even mentioned yet in this podcast, I think is man of the match, Alejandro Garnacho. Now, Marcus Rashford gets the 2 goals. Is that worth 3 points? Anthony got a good goal as well. I would be looking at Alejandro Garnacho. I thought he was very good. While greedy, he was greedy at times, but I can sort of afford that when a player sort of does excite you a little bit.
I agree. I agree in the sense that Garnacho was the best player over the 90 minutes, but the way that you guys normally do these 3-2-1s, it's about impact and how do you go past 2 goals in the space.
I just thought that, but take those 2 goals away, we win 1-0 in the last minute, which I do agree, and that's often how we do it. But it was the first, no, I wouldn't argue against it. I'm waiting to see a lot of people's thoughts in the live chat. I just thought Garnacho over the 90 minutes was impactful. He was the reason the game was played in the Charlton half.
I agree with you. I definitely agree with you on that. It's just that the way that you and Larry normally do these 3-2-1s, I think Casemiro is a good shout too.
But do you think the 2 goals were impactful? Obviously they were. We won 3-0, but in regards to the result,
I think the first one was maybe not.
Yeah. George here with a shout with Casemiro as well. That ball he played to Pellistri, obviously the one to Rashford as well, which I'm sure everyone remembers outside of the foot to Marcus Rashford. But for the first goal, for Pellistri's assist, go back and watch Casemiro's pass there. I'm telling you, it's one of the passes you just hit when you're mucking around at training in the warm-up, where you just got a bit of dew on the grass and you just hit it to get a bit of spin. It's when you don't do those passes in a game, they're too risky. There's no point doing it. You just hit it with the side of your foot. But Casemiro's come on and said, stuff it. I'm hitting this pass like I'm just mucking around at training. And what a brilliant pass it was. I urge everyone to go back and watch that second goal, Marcus Rashford's first goal. So Casemiro, when he comes on, you just see the class. As I said, I've gone beyond saying Casemiro is the best defensive midfielder in the world. I'm saying he's the best midfielder in the world at the moment. Can't wait for Casemiro against Kevin De Bruyne, but he's also gone Rashford for 2 points, Garnacho for 1. Look, I'll throw it to you, George. Maybe you can want to throw another name, but you've got Rashford and Garnacho there. I'm just thinking, yes, Rashford's goals were important, and we do sort of value that impact for goals, but it was so close to being a 1-0 win off the back of Garnacho's performance. I would opt for Garnacho, but as you're the guest, floor is yours.
I'll agree with you on Garnacho for 3 points, but I think that means Rashford's got to have 2 because ultimately...
Oh, look, Rashford 2 goals, definitely. So we'll go Garnacho for 3 points, Rashford.
I'm going to throw a bit of a left field suggestion for 1 point. Given the circumstances that he hasn't made his club debut in however long, he's waited that long and he's come straight on and made an instant impact, could have had a couple more assists if our finishing was better towards the end. I'm going to throw Pellistri in for a shout for a point, given the circumstances.
I had 2 names. I wasn't going to throw Tom Heaton in there, but as we mentioned at the start, I thought Tom Heaton had good performance, nowhere near points, but just an honourable mention for Tom Heaton. Anthony, I'll go back to the Garnacho thing. Take away those 2 goals from Marcus Rashford and think it was close to a match-winning goal, curling ball into the top corner to win the match 1-0, very close. Thought Anthony's within a shout for a point, because very close to a match-winning goal. But the way Pellistri came in, and yes, not so much the impact, which he did obviously have a positive impact, but I just thought the narrative around Pellistri coming on, making your debut and sort of liven things up at Old Trafford, I do have to take your hat off for Pellistri. So I would be looking maybe a little bit more towards Anthony, because in my eyes, I was 1 minute away from a match-winning goal, which I obviously could have got the 3 points if that was the case. So I think he'd be hard done by not to get a point. But obviously Pellistri did very well. And then you do look at Casemiro. I thought maybe Fred, until he got subbed, was maybe the best in midfield. But I'll throw the floor to you, and if anyone else gets your thoughts in the live chat. But your thoughts for a point.
I've talked up Pellistri too much on this show not to give him a point.
Look, I'd like to say, and it just sort of continuing on from the positivity around Pellistri, I think deserving of it, and it's great to see. As I say, Mainu, great debut. Pellistri as well, I forgot it was his debut. It's been for so long. George here, one question: if the subs didn't come on, could we have conceded? I think Erik ten Hag's game management last couple of weeks has been brilliant. Whether you've agreed with the personnel, didn't come on,
we could have.
Yeah, very well. And look, Charlton, maybe that's why we got those 2 goals. Charlton became a little bit more expansive and sort of opened the space up for Pellistri, Casemiro, Rashford. But I thought the way Erik ten Hag's game management the last couple of games, I thought fair play. Whether you agreed with the personnel or not, he's bringing on or bringing off. That's one thing. But the idea behind the substitutions, I think Erik ten Hag has got it bang on. And it seems so refreshing because the last couple of years we've always been sitting there from the 60th minute, 65th, 70th, 75th minute, 80th minute waiting for a sub. Erik ten Hag does seem to be quite proactive. So I am enjoying that from the manager and Chris here, Pellistri, Fred, Anthony for a point. Yeah, I would have gone Anthony as well, but look, George has made a compelling case for Pellistri, and look, I wouldn't disagree around Pellistri's debut. Come on, get an assist. Pleasure to see. So we'll go 3 points for
the assist as well. It's the confidence he showed on the ball, his ability to.
Just played well as well.
Yeah,
no doubt. So Garnacho for 3 points, Rashford for 2. and we'll give Facundo Pellistri for 1 point now. We'll obviously do many previews, or one preview, but many discussions ahead of the Manchester derby. It's obviously a big one, but is there any, and obviously Weghorst, George obviously called Weghorst when Ralph Rangnick was first appointed that he should come in as Manchester United striker. So we'll definitely have George on when or slash if.
It's having the 7 shirt for him.
When Weghorst is announced. So make sure you are subscribed for that show. We'll definitely go live when that's announced. But besides Weghorst, because we'll have many discussions around that, George, is there anything else around the game or Man United news you do want to touch on before we wrap up?
Just quickly on the Charlton manager, who was you can tell he's a massive United fan, don't you?
Apparently, got a season ticket, which I think that is. I think we often put those stories and sort of feel good moments around the FA Cup. But this is a League Cup. It's cup football. It's one of those things. It is sometimes good to see. Now, in my mind, Charlton are a big club because I grew up with them in the Premiership. Now, ultimately, they're in League One, but ultimately, you do have those feel good stories. You mentioned the Australian goalkeeper, the manager. What a buzz it would have been for him, sort of meeting Erik ten Hag and managing at Old Trafford, the Theatre of Dreams. So fair. And I thought Charlton did well. Obviously, a lot of Man United fans will rock up and say, oh, we should smack them. Yes, we should smack them, but ultimately, they are tough games. I remember when I used to play, we used to have a couple of cup games. And we used to always lose to the lower division sides. It was just so hard that they were up for it. You used to play on a bad ground and they were up for it and it was hard. And sometimes these games are harder. Maybe the Man United players will find it easier in the derby, where it's more of a football game. Where Charlton, see the size of that striker up against Lisandro Martinez. Like he was towered over Harry Maguire, for God's sake. And I'm just thinking he was a unit. And I think ultimately they provide a test. So I thought, well, some performances were a little bit shaky individually. To get through with 3-0 in a quarterfinal of a League Cup, I thought nothing but praise today.
Oh, 100%. And as you talk about our inevitable meeting with City in the semis, I'm really looking forward to. But
well, we'd be interested. Obviously, City plays Southampton tonight and Wolves against Forest. So, look, I'd like to see maybe Forest get through and Forest in a semi-final and Newcastle and City knock each other out. But time will tell.
Forest would be even better because Henderson couldn't play that game. He'd be because of the loan scenario.
I can't believe that's 2 legs, that semi-final, but it is what it is. George here saying, will Erik ten Hag be brave enough to play Sancho on Saturday night? I would bet the house that Jadon Sancho doesn't start that match. Might be on the bench, but I would have said if there was a surprise selection of Sancho, it would have been today. Wasn't the case. So, see, George, he's saying 1 leg. I'm saying 2 legs. Commentators are saying 2 legs. The internet's saying 1 leg. What information do you have? Is this a 2-legged semi-final or 1 leg?
Your guess is as good as mine.
I can't tell. Everyone gives me a different answer, and I have no idea.
From COVID onwards, it only has been a 1-legged semi.
That's what I thought, but and off the back of the World Cup, you think that would continue? But everything I've heard from sort of commentators and sort of TV shows is that it's a return to 2 legs. I hope it's 1 leg.
Well, I mean, from a personal perspective, bias. I hope it's 2 legs because I get an extra game to go to while I'm in Manchester.
Fingers crossed for you. You're too selfish. Think about the players and the player welfare.
Yeah.
But look, stay tuned. Make sure you are subscribed. Tomorrow I might put out a short video on Pellistri and sort of tie the Elanga and Pellistri discussion into a quick video. So do make sure you subscribe for that. Do leave a like on the video if you are enjoying Man United's winning run and Marcus Rashford's goal scoring form. They're very much appreciated. Subscribe if you're new. George, pleasure as always, mate.
Thanks for having me on, and hopefully looking forward to I don't even want to call it an upset because we're playing that well. A win over City. Let's just call it that. It should be considered an upset.
Plenty of Manchester derby content coming your way. That'll be an interesting one. If you are in Sydney, the Man United Supporters Club will be at Scruffy Murphy's 11:30 on Saturday night. But we'll definitely preview that in the coming days. But until then, have a good one. We'll chat to you soon. Cheers.